Hargraves Associates has been working with the City of Dallas, Parks for Downtown Dallas, Inc., numerous stakeholders in the community for over 16 years on the planning and development of downtown parks. Amazing client group. It's really been a pleasure going on this journey with them. The projects completed and in development are diverse in scale and character, from a 1-acre square in the historic West End to what will hopefully eventually be an 8.7-acre park on the east end of Dallas, which is on the cusp of transformation, from gardens that are designed for respite to parks that are more active with a range of program and amenities. And you've heard about a few of these already, and we'll touch on these in the master plan recap as well. The 2004 master plan called for parks in every district, replacing surface parking with green, strengthening pedestrian connectivity with more pedestrian-friendly streetscapes, all with the goal of making downtown more livable, enriching the quality of life downtown, but also to catalyze economic development. The 2004 plan included a number of parks within the loop and parks within each district. The early focus was what we refer to as the core, and that includes, as you've heard, Main Street Garden, Below Garden, and the land acquisition for Pacific Plaza. We did some early conceptual design studies for each of these to really better understand the physical characteristics of each site, the programmatic potential, and out of that we developed the design guidelines for the master plan. So really working through design as a way of developing guidelines. Main Street Garden was the first in 2009 at 2 acres. It includes a multi-purpose lawn, dog run, an area for children, water feature, concessions, restrooms, and gardens. Below Garden, which our firm completed, came next in 2012, 1.7 acres. It really is more about quiet and respite. It's botanical in character, grasses, perennials, trees of Texas, ornamental water, and a hill. And then, of course, Clyde Warren Park, which you've already heard about from Jim. Linear 5.5-acre deck-over park over Woodall Rogers, really a lively regional destination with a lot of activity, a lot of program. So we were asked to come back in 2012 to take another look at the master plan and identify priorities moving forward. At that time, parks and public open space totaled about 53 acres within the loop. One of the first things that we did was to take a look at how the land use had changed from 2004, and as Amy already mentioned, what we all realized very quickly was that the residential population downtown was expanding very rapidly. So in this plan, everything that you see in yellow from 2004 to 2012 was new residential. And that really just reinforced the need for new open space downtown. By the time we finished the master plan update, the plan called for adding about an additional 35 acres within the loop. Charles, I know you are frown on these sort of benchmark charts, but going back to the reference to Boeing. At the time, I think this was right around the time that Boeing had decided to go to another city, and the city was very interested in understanding where their park system stood relative to peer cities. So in the bottom, you can see here that when we started the update, Dallas was really right in the middle of the pack in terms of their parks and open space in downtown. That's very important to understand, in downtown. With the additional 35 acres, it put Dallas at that time above all the other peer cities. So out of the master plan, we identified the 4 priority parks moving forward. You've already heard about 3 of these. On the east end, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment, will be Carpenter Park. Once it's fully realized, will be the largest of the downtown parks at 8.7 acres. Phase 1 will be 5.5. Pacific Plaza is probably the most urban out of the 4. Chuck will talk about that more next. It has a lot of office and a lot of residential around it. Isabel just spoke about West End Plaza, the technology square. We also like to think of it as a kind of neighborhood living room. And Chrissy just spoke about Harwood Park, adjacent to all the residential development that's coming online in the Farmers Market District, and the challenges of working with historic structures, and the opportunity as well. Carpenter Park is on the east end, Live Oak Street to the north, Pacific to the south. It's a very, very complex site with significant transportation infrastructure and a significant piece of existing public art by the artist Robert Irwin. The existing site is crisscrossed by a network of roadways, and you can also see, in response to that, one of Robert Irwin's early works from about 35 years ago is Portal Slice, which is this black line here, which was set up as a contextual response to all those roadways. So the east end at the moment, it's changing, but has been a vehicular dominated part of downtown, but that's changing. So with the thoroughfare amendment and the changes that are happening in the transportation network now, the roadway network will be simplified such that we now will have a large contiguous parcel of land here that'll be about 5.5 acres, and then 2 additional parcels here that will total, for a total of 8.7 acres. If you know Robert Irwin's work, you know that his work is contextual, it's site-specific. This piece, Portal Slice, is a 700-foot-long Corten steel wall that was from early in his career, about 35, 40 years ago. It was a specific response to the roadway network at that time, sort of a vehicular gateway from the east end of downtown. That context is changing, and that's really significant and really important in terms of Portal Slice. So one of the first things we did was to build a model to help everyone, all the stakeholders involved, understand what this change meant, both in terms of open space and in terms of this significant piece of art. On the left is the existing condition. So it's not only the roadway network, but the way that the artwork is situated in response to that. And on the right, when the roads go away, you can see that large contiguous parcel that we get from that. We also were taking a look at the evolving land use on the east end and trying to understand what was happening there. The yellow represents either existing or planned residential. The orange represents future residential. And that helped us in terms of where we need to make connections. You can see we also have a DART station right here. So we were focused not just on the park, but on the pedestrian connectivity to the park. We actually worked closely with the city streets department throughout schematic design to actually help refine the profile of the roadways to make it more pedestrian friendly. When we began design, one of the first things that we had to wrestle with was Portal Slice. George Hargraves and Mary Margaret Jones reached out to Robert Irwin early on to let him know what was happening on the site and to really gauge his response. Robert's initial response was, things change, I understand, no hard feelings, but it should go away. The piece is contextual, the context has changed, therefore the piece is no longer relevant. Just take it away. The city of Dallas really didn't like that. They really, did not want to lose an early Robert Irwin piece. They asked us to go back to Bob and see if we could work with Bob to incorporate the piece into a new park scheme. So we did that. He said, okay, well, let's see what you're thinking, send me what you're thinking, and we'll go from there. So we developed an early idea for how we could transform this area into a new public park, but keeping Portal Slice in place as it was, respecting that piece as it was. And really what we did is we sort of lightly traced pedestrian pathways where the old roadway network used to be. And you can see that we also claimed these under freeway spaces. This is I-345 and the dashed lines flying over our site. And we saw that as an opportunity. Right now, they're just barren, empty dirt lots underneath the freeway. We saw that as an opportunity. So we latched onto those, and we decided to try to enliven and program those spaces. This space here we refer to as Food Truck Plaza. The idea is that it would be food trucks, food, beverage, games, light, possibly art installations. On the east side, we are calling for recreational components such as basketball, handball, even skate, and then dogs on this parcel to the south. So we sent that off to Bob, and a couple weeks later, Mary Margaret gets this package in the mail. And in it, Bob had a couple of sketches. So he proposed actually rotating Portal Slice. The big idea here was that Portal Slice was no longer a portal for the roadways, for the cars. It was now a portal for people. And he was really intrigued with this idea of this food truck plaza space and food and beverage, games, art. He was also very intrigued with the infrastructure of I-345 itself, and thought that all of these things converging in this space was just very dynamic and unusual. So he wanted to turn this to engage that space, but also make it more pedestrian related. And on that note, about making it more pedestrian oriented, Bob also was reflecting back on his piece at Wellesley, the filigree line, and introduced the idea of bringing filigree to Portal Slice within the area of the food truck plaza to make that more playful and a little more transparent as you move from one side of the food truck plaza to the other. So we worked very closely with Bob over, a long time, to develop the filigree panels, which were new pieces. So we're actually reusing all of the existing Corten steel that's on site now. We're repositioning it, we're rotating it. But for the filigree, we had to create two new pieces. So Bob gave us his hand sketch. We digitized the whole thing. We worked with a fabricator, a heavy steel fabricator that does a lot of shipbuilding work in Houston to cut these very, very large plates. A 3D model just showing the relationship of the wall to the landform. And that eventually led to this park scheme, where you see Portal Slice and the landform that is part of that artwork to the north, Food Truck Plaza here to the east edge of that parcel, a new pavilion building with restrooms, park, office, and storage, and some concessions. And then to the south, a variety of program anchored by really a civic scale water feature that really is kind of a gateway for people who are coming from East Dallas to downtown, moving along Pacific. This is really kind of a marker coming into downtown, and we'll have some perspective views of that. Plaza space, gardens, multi-purpose lawn, environmental play for small children, and then in future phases of work, the courts and dogs. This is the aerial of the current design. One of the features of the park is this sort of long meandering granite walk, which really forms an armature around which the landscape program is organized. Just a 3D shot of the future basketball and skate in the current design plan. This is the eye level at the south end at Pacific and Pearl with that sort of civic scale fountain, probably 25 to 30 feet tall, so it's visible from a distance with a low level of what we call bird's nest jets, interactive gardens, grasses, and perennials. A lot of trees. We're keeping 6 large live oaks that are existing on the site today and planting over 100 new trees on this site. And reincorporating the statue of John Carpenter. The Carpenter family is the namesake for the current plaza and is a significant donor to the redeveloped Carpenter Park. Food truck plaza, games, movable tables and chairs, bocce in this area, food trucks off to the right. DDI, Downtown Dallas Inc., will be managing all of this, and we have great hopes for them working their magic here. The environmental play, really a collection of low-scale elements, not to compete with Portal Slice, stacked logs, stepping stones, and a small splash pad for small children. And originally the dog play was to the east, and I think we all came to recognize with some nudging from Willis that the park really wouldn't be complete without the dogs. I think we've all seen since the completion of Main Street Garden and Belo, some of the early projects that, you know, as the residential population in downtown is growing, dogs are a reality. They're here. We have to find a way to accommodate that activity. So if we provide a place for them within the park, they have a place to go, and then that minimizes the damage that they do to other parts of the park. So we've added a small dog play area here just at the south end of the food truck plaza. Construction will begin spring of next year.